On this episode, we talk about Rollins' curb stomp being banned, the Bella Twins turning face, WWE 2K15 coming to PC, and our Extreme Rules predictions on Byte That. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 87 of Byte That, the semi-somewhat maybe international professional wrestling podcast where we talk about the ups and downs of that which we love, which is the world is not enough 007. My name is Ryan McNulty. I come from Boston, Massachusetts, filling in for Juan as host this week as he has work obligations. And with me, of course, Mr. Canada himself from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Keith Pushik.
I prefer Captain, thank you. But, all right, real talk for a second here.
All right, let's...
The world is not enough.
Yes.
Is it even in your top 5 James Bond movies?
No, not at all, but it goes best with our intro, because we used to say world of professional wrestling. So it was kind of like, hey, are we going back to that? And then swerve.
All right.
Anyway, getting into
sense.
the actual show, we like to keep our intro short and sweet. Keith, on the Twitter machine today, was teasing an announcement, and I figure we're just going to go right into it. So,
right into it. There is no room for suspense here.
Exactly.
We're just barreling in.
Exactly. So on last week's S.C.A.F, our award-winning segment on the podcast, our Squared Circle Awesome feature, it hasn't won any awards, but you know the drill.
It's won awards in our hearts.
We had that whole Renee Young t-shirt thing going on. There's a bootleg Renee Young t-shirt out there that stole one of our old thumbnails from a video from basically a year ago. But that kind of snowballed the idea of official Byte That merchandise.
What if we had a real t-shirt?
So, available starting today, you can get the Byte That logo t-shirt for $19.99. It's on the website Teespring that we felt is a good website. Best way to make it available to you guys and to make it at a reasonable price for everybody. And it worked for us that way. You're going to be able to go to bytethat.com. We'll have it up there. We're going to tweet it out. So
you'll see it everywhere.
It won't be hard to find, but if you want to go to the direct address, it is Teespring. That is TEE. spring.com/byte-that. Remember, that's Byte That with a Y. So we have it available in our traditional purple and yellow colors, as well as you can get it instead of purple, you have a black t-shirt.
And it is worth noting that if you are interested in this t-shirt, and if you are, first of all, thank you very much, just as the king used to say, but I wouldn't wait if you really want this shirt, because it's only available for a very limited time.
Yes, exactly. The way this website works is it's kind of like Kickstarter, but not. Basically, it's a 2-week campaign, so you guys have until May 5th if you would like to get the shirt. Normally, the way it works is, you have a goal of number of t-shirts sold, and if it reaches that goal, they get printed. Well, we made our goal very short, very
reasonable,
easy,
let's say,
and it's already there. So if you order a shirt,
you're guaranteed
you will get it.
A shirt if you order.
Exactly.
So
wear
our sexiness on your body. Let us be a part of you.
Exactly. So head over to bytethat.com if you want to check it out. Remember, available limited time only till May 5th. But enough of the plugs. Let's get into actual Monday Night Raw talk. So,
all right.
I guess the theme of Monday Night Raw this week was all about Randy Orton getting the RKOs out of his system because he can't use it at Extreme Rules. Extreme Rules this Sunday, by the way. We're gonna have our predictions a little later. Keith?
So, funny story about this, and it's too much of a coincidence not to really bring it to point, but Randy Orton RKOing everybody, that was a thing on Raw. Went through every match and RKO'd people, right? Well, if you go back and watch some of the old Attitude Era episodes of Raw, from 1998. One of the first ones that you see is an episode where Stone Cold Steve Austin interrupts almost every single segment on the show and stuns members that are going to be in that Royal Rumble. Now, is it a coincidence that this happened right after those Attitude Era episodes were released? Or did somebody on the creative team go back and watch those old Raws and say, that's a really good idea? Conspiracy theory. I'll leave it to you.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me in the least bit if that's something that they did, but what in wrestling has not been recycled? That's just kind of part of wrestling. It goes on every single week.
But the timing.
Year round.
The timing.
It is a huge coincidence for sure. I mean, but they put up, years worth of Raws. So I think you just happened to was it the first one of the year?
It's the first or the second.
Oh, the first
I can't remember exactly which one. So if you're starting chronologically, you're gonna see it.
That's true. There's a good chance. They were mulling through them and they're like, hey, that's a great idea. But like I said, everything in wrestling is recycled and it worked. It's not like they tried to shoehorn this in. It made sense with the whole RKO being banned.
Yes.
Now, that was all good and great. Poor Heath Slater, he couldn't get his U.S. title shot. He had to get RKO through a table. Orton made the big claim he's going to RKO the whole roster. Only got about 5 people. Still fun nonetheless. But the RKO is banned for, kayfabe storyline purposes. But recent news has come out and almost confirmed by what we saw on Raw last night was that the curb stomp, legitimately, not storyline or anything, is banned or just not being used anymore.
It's understandable that it is banned because, even from the whole concussion thing, it's a very high-risk move. But it's so disappointing because, God, I love that move. It's such a cool move, the curb stomp. Seth Rollins just does it so good, and really he was just starting to find that place that made the curb stomp awesome. Like the couple he did to Brock Lesnar that was awesome. The counter into an RKO at WrestleMania, that was awesome. Like it was really starting to get that momentum, get that steam, and now it's gone. No,
absolutely. This really caught me off guard actually because I had not read, I guess there might have been rumors out before Raw had even aired last night. So I had not seen any of that, and it just kind of threw me when Rollins didn't use the curb stomp. The move he used, I guess I could best describe it. It was very similar. It's very similar to a DDT. He basically does like, the front face lock and then just kind of like slam, like Rollins will bring his legs back and kind of like he's taking like a front bump and kind of slam their face down.
It's like a spike DDT.
Sort of, yeah. It's like Rollins falls forward while the other guy's like lands face down too. That's the best way I can describe it, but it's basically like a DDT and Rollins just falls the other way. Looked kind of weak. I wasn't really feeling it. It could have just been, he only had so much time to come up with a new move. I don't know if it's going to stick or not. But it really is just disappointing that...
Is it like Lita's old DDT?
No. Well, it's like you're kind of... I can't really describe it yet. Like, your legs... You're standing and you go like that way with the DDT. I'm trying to show through webcam to Keith right now, so that doesn't make sense when I say that way to our listeners.
Perhaps maybe I should just watch the end of Raw and not fall asleep.
There you go. Yeah, so you'll just have to watch it again. Either way, it didn't look that great. So the curb stomp, I don't understand. Like, I don't remember hearing any reports of anyone getting like concussions or any type of injury history with it. It didn't seem like it was overly dangerous. It seemed, like, granted, in real life, that's a very dangerous thing to do. But I feel like in the world of wrestling moves, it seemed pretty innocent to me. But maybe I'm wrong.
I don't really think you're wrong at all, because, the way Rollins did it, it wasn't really that much to the head. Like, it was more the below the back of the neck, like the upper back area. So, yeah, maybe somebody could get whiplash, and, we don't know because we don't see after the show, but it didn't really seem like anybody did. And really, if he's doing like a high impact DDT, is it any better than having a move like that? Like, aren't you just kind of replacing one evil for another?
No, exactly. I mean, that whole front DDT thing, you know, your head hits the ground, and potentially if that move goes wrong, you're hitting it with more force. I mean, the only thing I can think of is like Brock Lesnar took a few kind of vicious spikes to the mat on some of those curb stomps, but I mean, that's Lesnar.
But it's Brock Lesnar. Exactly. He literally doesn't feel pain, so it's okay.
And I feel like he takes the moves for real just because.
Yeah, I think that's a Brock Lesnar thing more than a curb stomp thing. But does that mean that two members of the Shield are now using DDTs? Like, now Rollins and Ambrose kind of have the same finisher, don't they?
A lot of people were comparing it to the Dirty Deeds, and they definitely need to like differentiate themselves, because it definitely seems too similar. I mean, Rollins can pull out that whole Phoenix Splash thing where he does, you know, the crazy flip move he tried at WrestleMania.
But that can't be his finisher because of Neville. But Neville's a thing and the Red Arrow, so you can't make that his finisher.
It is different, but the thing is, Rollins is a heel, and that move's way too cool for a heel. Like, that is kind of like how Orton has the punt kick, even though he doesn't land it anymore. But like, it's like your
a curb
super
stomp
finisher
would be a perfect heel move, where you just curb stomp somebody.
Exactly, yeah. So bottom line, hopefully Rollins gets a new finisher. Maybe the curb stomp is not banned. Apparently Dave Meltzer commented on it, and he said the move's not banned, it's just not being used anymore. And you know, there's a little bit of difference, but it doesn't make a difference to any of us, because
it's like Orton's punt. They tease it sometimes, but he'll never land it again.
Yeah.
So,
but like, I guess it's like, it's not banned in the way that the pile driver is banned, but it's just like not being used anymore. To viewers, it makes no difference because we're just not going to see it anymore. So,
and I guess a good sign, or I guess a good thing to come out of this, is we will never see Big E curb stomped on Martin Luther King Day ever again.
I believe that was a tweet of the week. Was it?
Yes, from a very long time ago.
It was a classic tweet of the week. But let's switch gears a bit. A lot of turmoil within the Authority, especially between Kane and Rollins. We're kind of getting this, teasing of a babyface turn from Kane, but Kane probably had one of the best promos he's had in a long time when he was arguing about, you know, how Rollins would be nothing without him. He was the one who got him Money in the Bank, and, you know, the Authority, you know, did everything to make him champion. And of course, the best line,
they could have made El Torito champion if they wanted to.
So how do you feel about, you know, Kane's role, where they're going with this? What kind of direction do you see happening?
Kane's role right now is awesome. I really like how he's just kind of on that line. Like, he's loyal to Triple H, but he hates Seth Rollins. So you can really see it going one of either way. But you kind of have to feel like, yeah, Triple H is going to side with Seth Rollins at the end of the day. So Kane's going to probably get kicked out. But my big worry is they're just going to go back to Demon Kane once it's all over. Like, Kane breaks from the Authority, then he puts on the mask again. That would be the most disappointing case, but maybe I wouldn't totally be opposed to Kane just staying in like the black pants and then wrestling like that. That would honestly be kind of cool.
I'm actually kind of with you. I'm pretty much done with the masked Kane. We talked a lot, last week, week before, about just Kane and the Big Show and how a lot of people are tired of seeing them. This week, I didn't feel that as much. Kane actually played his role really well, but I agree. Like, the whole Demon Kane thing, I think it's just, we've seen him as this normal corporate Kane for too long for the Demon to even be believable. And the whole, like, now we see Kane texting and on his cell phone, when before that was like a weird thing for Kane to do.
Kane gave a 2 weeks notice on Raw. I think that is the first time in wrestling history where someone has given legit legal notice on TV, and it wasn't just like, I quit or you're fired. Like, that was a legitimate, respectable business thing to do that Kane did.
That was actually awesome, because in wrestling, we're so used to everything always being, considering, the most extreme circumstance of a situation. So it was very funny for corporate Kane to give his 2 weeks notice because, that's just such a weird thing in wrestling. It comes off as so, weak. You don't seem like you're this badass. You're just like, oh yeah, I give my 2 weeks.
You know what would be awesome? 2 weeks from now on Raw, Triple H turns on Kane, and then he's just like, yeah, your 2 weeks notice has been accepted. You're gone.
That would be great. And we can even kind of get into to Triple H a bit. I'm just going to mention Kane was made the gatekeeper for the main event title match. But when we get into predictions, we can kind of get into more.
The most amazing title for just somebody standing outside the ring. He is the gatekeeper of the cage.
The most glorified title for a security guard.
Which is weird because the cage doesn't even have a door, but yeah.
No, it does.
I mean, no, it has a door, no gate.
Yes.
That is what I meant.
Yes, if we wanted to get into specifics. But anyway, we'll talk about Kane's role as the gatekeeper in our predictions. But I do kind of want to talk about Triple H a bit. Triple H, normally he's always completely backing Rollins, but he actually seemed like he wants to be more tough on Rollins. How do you feel? Triple H is kind of playing the parent between the two fighting children. But normally kind of these type of heel factions, you would expect Triple H to just be 100% with Rollins and totally against Kane. But surprisingly, he's kind of in the middle of this. And how do you see Kane, Triple H going forward in these roles?
I don't know. This is kind of an interesting one because it is weird that Triple H is kind of being, like you said, a parent. Like he's trying to teach the cocky, arrogant Seth Rollins a lesson the hard way. But with the Triple H thing, there's more to it, and I don't exactly know what that more to it is. But I'm excited to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. So we got Kane potentially turning face, but in the world of paradigm shifts, we also recently had in the Divas world Naomi turning heel. So Naomi had a match against Brie Bella, and so Naomi's supposed to be a heel, but the Bella twins are kind of heels, and Naomi was kind of I don't know.
Do those exist in the Divas division?
Well, that's what I was kind of getting into.
What's going on?
I was kind of gonna get into the fact that there's no respect in the Divas division when it comes to face and heels. Even it's even more abused than a lot of things that happen on with the men, where sometimes a guy just turns face for no reason. You have no idea why. The Divas division, I feel like, is even worse. And Naomi comes out and she's supposed to be a heel because she took out Paige, the one, who's the big fan favorite of the Divas division right now. But then she's facing the Bellas, and it's the Bellas are supposed to be the big heels, and it's how do you expect anyone to get on Naomi's side when she just took out, the most over diva that they have now that AJ's gone?
We've talked at lengths about how to blur the lines between good guys and bad guys, how these awesome characters exist in that middle ground. We've talked about how to do it good. What we saw on Raw was an example of on how not to do it, because it's just confusing. Brie Bella is almost like the Big Show at this point, with how many times she's turned face and then heel and then face and then heel. It's just impossible to keep up. And like you said, Ryan, how are you supposed to cheer for anybody when you don't even know who you're supposed to cheer for? Now the Bellas are faces, or are they just less heelish than Naomi this week? Now, what happens if, I don't know, the Bellas fight Alicia Fox next week, and now they're more the bad guy than Alicia Fox? Are they the bad guys again, or what's going on? It doesn't make a lot of sense, and yeah, it's unfortunate because you can give divas time, you can give them the opportunities to have great matches, but if you are just throwing things against a wall and have absolute zero direction on what's going on, it's probably going to sink 9 times out of 10, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, exactly. We've talked a lot about, there can be this gray area where it's, there's not really faces and heels, and it's cheer who you want, but at the end of the day, the audience...
You still got to play a role.
Yes, and the audience has to care. They have to care about you in some way to be invested. And when you have Naomi just turning heel against the Bellas, who for the last several months we've been trained to not like, you know, it's just kind of like a recipe for disaster. And to make things even weirder is now I'm reading reports online that the Bella Twins are now going to be turning face. When, I mean, I thought it was, you know, a couple of weeks ago we were talking, aren't they supposed to be built up to be like, you know, the mega heels of the group? So
yes,
they're really just trying to do this weird double turn thing. Not necessarily, you know, like a double turn. I mean, we could see a double turn in the match. But I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. Now I'm just confusing myself.
It's so hard to just keep track of everything. The fact that we have to dissect it and try to figure out, and we're just hoping and praying we get it right, says everything you need to say. It just has no direction. And
yes, how about the new hashtag?
Hopefully they find something.
The new hashtag is the perfect way to end this part. This conversation is hashtag give divas a direction. Yes, or give divas direction. All right, moving on.
Speaking of direction.
Speaking of direction, we have a new direction in the United States title match. So I wanted to just kind of go into the stipulation a little bit. The rules were revealed for the Russian chain match, and it's going to be sort of like a bull rope match. So you have to, you have to successfully touch all four corners without interruption to win the match.
So now are they linked together via chain?
Yes, I was about to go into that. I'm not so sure that they are linked together, the way that they've been using the chains. I could be wrong about that. I think it might just be that you have the chains as a weapon, and you have to touch the four corners. So
because linking two people by giant chains seems like the easiest way to snap somebody's wrist into like 1,000 pieces.
I don't feel like that's a good idea, and I don't expect that to be a thing. But who knows? We're just gonna go on the fact that they're not linked together, and they just have the chains as the weapon to prevent them from touching the four corners.
Now, that being said, like I said last week, I personally like the Texas bull rope style match. It's different. The fact that you're not trying to win by pinfall or submission, but you actually have an objective of hitting all four corners. It adds like a new dynamic to the match. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to the match. I think it'll be a good match. The part that I'm interested the most in is if they're actually going to be chained to each other, because that just seems like the craziest thing ever.
It might not be as dangerous as you think, because I mean they've done those types of matches before, and if it's not like you're completely tying just the chain around your wrist, you could have some sort of link thing or some sort of
that's true.
Wristband that's like attached to a chain. We don't know if that's going to happen, but I agree with you. When I heard that they were going to do the whole four-corner thing like a bull rope match, it definitely got me more interested because, we only see that type of match every, couple of years. It doesn't come around very often.
It's been... I can't even think of the last one.
It might have been the strap match, I think, with Mark Henry.
It was one with Sheamus and
Mark Henry.
Yep, that's the last one.
And that was at least, a year and a half to 2 years ago even. So, they don't come around often, and like he said, very unique rules. You can have a whole different type of psychology to that type of match. So I'm definitely really interested to see where they go with that. And now I want to talk about, something that's been disappointing me for several weeks now.
On the opposite end of things that we're looking forward to seeing where they go with, there's this.
Exactly.
I'm the Segway guy today.
Yes, segues are going to be terrible. Juan is, the king of the Segway, and we're just
and he's riding one off into the sunset right now.
We're just not going to be able to live up to that. So Miz and Mizdow. I've been complaining about this feud for a while. I mean, it was the best damn thing going for so long, and it's just died a horrible, painful death. And it was basically an ending you could see coming a mile away.
As the person that defended this on last week's show, I'm so sorry, Ryan. I'm so sorry I ever doubted you. It's if this is the end, it's so unfortunate. The fact that, okay, so in case you didn't see Raw, they had a match. Miz and the Mizdow. The Mizdow, that's right. The winner would gain the property of the Miz brand. Like, they would become the Miz. Like, if Mizdow won, Mike Mizanin would never be able to be the Miz again. Probably have to legally change his name to something else. Who knows? We'll never know, because Mizdow didn't win. And that's just so disappointing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we were all kind of worried, like, what's Mizdow going to do after he loses his gimmick? And we don't really know. And as far as we know...
Unfortunately, now we're going to find out, probably.
Yeah. As far as we know with The Miz, I guess he's already going off to film another movie. So he kind of gets the win, takes Mizdow's, strips Mizdow of the Miz gimmick, and he's just gone. So Miz is just kind of left with nothing and no gimmick. At least if Miz went away, then Mizdow could, pretend to be the Miz the whole time he was gone.
My question that I'm left with, and I just can't think of a good answer, is how does this benefit anybody, like that outcome? What good does it do that the fact that the Miz gets to keep being the Miz?
I really don't know. I can't believe how badly they mishandled what was one of the best feuds that they had going. It was, we talked about how it was just like the perfect mid-card feud that, like, Raw needed that. Like, that was something Raw was missing for so long, was just a well-developed, interesting mid-card feud. And they had it going right. They did it right for so long, and then they just totally blew it at the end.
And the craziest part, it didn't even end on a pay-per-view. It ended on the Raw before a pay-per-view.
We were talking about this being a WrestleMania match.
And now it's the Raw before Extreme Rules.
Exactly. We were willing to settle for Extreme Rules because we were like, oh, it'll get more attention. And it's just like a throwaway segment on Raw. It was just a huge disappointment.
It wasn't even the main event on that Raw.
No, and it's like it all went downhill when they just threw the match together on a random Raw, and the crowd just didn't care. And then it's been a disaster ever since. And it's terrible because Mizdow was so over, and now I just feel like it's just done. Like they blew an opportunity to have another star.
Damian Sandow's gonna have an amazing shoot interview one day.
I mean, like he has an interview on Jericho's podcast. It was very interesting to see, how he would just make the best out of anything and, never turned anything down. And, just how this whole thing came from nothing and it was doing so well. And it's really just depressing to see that this is how it ends. Like I said, Miz filming a movie. What the hell's Mizdow going to do?
So let's get real smarky for a minute here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So Sandow just made the best out of everything and said yes to everything he was given. But on the other side of the coin, you have people like John Cena saying, like, you need to take chances, you need to say no, you need to kind of rebel against what they tell you to make it. Do you think that hurt Mizdow just saying yes and yes and yes, and that's kind of what got him to where he is right now, where we're so uncertain about his future?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's entirely on Sandow, but I would agree with you.
I don't think it's on him completely, but I think there's a portion of it that could possibly be a huge factor.
No, absolutely. I mean, there is definitely some blame on Miz and Mizdow for kind of not seeing that, hey, they're just going to give us a throwaway match on Raw. Like, maybe we should try and politician for this to be or politic for this to be, an Extreme Rules match, or just say, hey, we feel like that's not going to be a good idea. I don't know. But definitely, I mean, you have to kind of make a stand where you think, when you really believe in something, you should try and fight for it.
You should do it and not end up like...
Maybe they did. Maybe they really fought for it. We really don't know, and they just couldn't win it.
I just hope he doesn't go back to like dressing up as Magneto on Raw. That's my biggest fear. Like, it was just dumb. Like, they finally took that channel into something good with Mizdow, and then they're basically back to square one, and it's worrying.
Mm-hmm. No, and the whole thing with, fighting with Vince or creative or whoever, I mean, you always hear, like, every wrestler says when they're talking about, like, creative is, is this the hill you want to die on? So, picking your battles, so to speak. So maybe they didn't want to, die on that hill necessarily. And then, unfortunately, the feud went to hell. But most of the blame should always be on creative because they, to just blow an angle like that. But, you
had a money match,
someone who definitely has
gave it
some
away
say
for free.
in creative is going to be a special guest on the next Jericho Live podcast on the WWE Network, and that is Stephanie McMahon. So we got Stephanie as a guest on the podcast. Definitely not our podcast. That would be cool.
No,
but on Jericho's.
Awesome.
How do you feel about this? Definitely someone we don't hear a lot from in interviews or anything like that aren't like a PR type of thing. So how do you feel about this?
The trifecta is complete now. We've gotten Vince, Triple H, and Stephanie. It'll just be interesting to hear her story because it's a story we haven't really heard. We've seen the on TV side of it, like we've watched her grow on Raw and stuff for all these years, but we don't really know the real Stephanie McMahon, and that's what I hope they get into more than just like, oh, what do you think about China in the Hall of Fame and stuff like that. I kind of hope they don't go into that and just tell Stephanie's story. That's more what I'm interested in.
Yeah, exactly. We know Jericho's style. He's not going to be pushing for the hard-hitting questions. But, like Stephanie is someone like, I can't recall a single, really in-depth interview she's ever done or anything like that. Obviously Vince is kind of the same. We never really got, these sort of interviews from Vince either until Austin did his. So this will definitely be very interesting. There's, I don't think there's going to be any Macho Man questions or anything like that. Would probably not.
You know what the one question I want to really honestly know is, what was it like having Vince McMahon as a father growing up? Like, I'm just so curious what that's like.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a ton of like interesting stuff because obviously, Cena had been interviewed on, a bunch of podcasts, and so was Triple H. So there was not as much.
This is a first.
Yeah,
it's
wasn't
like
as
the Vince
much
McMahon
mystery.
podcast.
Exactly. This is more like the Vince McMahon thing where there's just so much we don't know, and I think we will get a lot of her kind of life experiences. That seems to be what Jericho kind of goes through more of like the, sort of your kind of life story in a way, but, not in the way that you would say it's boring. Whereas Austin was more trying to press for the hard-hitting questions, and both styles obviously have their merit. And, interviewing Stephanie in any of these styles, I think would be very interesting just because, like we said, we know so little about, the real her and just only what we've heard from other people. So it'll be really cool to kind of hear it directly from her. So definitely looking forward to that. I believe that is next Monday.
I think I remember hearing it like after SmackDown.
Oh, is it after
Thursday?
SmackDown?
I think it's next Thursday.
We will we'll have to get a confirmation on that.
Yeah, if I'm wrong, you can tweet us at to Byte That Cast and tell me I'm a filthy liar. But that's what I heard.
Exactly. I think it was April 30th. We'll get back to you on that.
Yes.
All right. So speaking of
getting back to you,
getting filthy, whatever.
Well, getting filthy. That means it's time for this week's.
I'm a S.C.A.F man. I'm a S.C.A.F man. S.C.A.F infection.
It's the S.C.A.F.
S.C.A.F.
I'm a S.C.A.F man.
S.C.A.F.
It's the S.C.A.F.
I'm a S.C.A.F man.
Oh my God.
Absolutely amazing. Yes, that S.C.A.F intro you just heard was made by our honorary fourth member, Mr. Roach McPoach. We want to thank him for that awesome S.C.A.F intro that we're going to be using now. Thanks again.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for that amazing intro. That's incredible is the only word that describes it. And not only that, but thank you for making sure I never have to hear Ryan or Juan sing incognito impromptu ever again. Thank you. I love you. You have a special place in my heart. God bless you,
sir. Did you mean
sir.
acapella incognito?
Yes, I did mean that.
I was like,
thank you.
We're not hiding who we are. You know, we'll sing terribly and identify ourselves.
Ryan McNulty, loud and proud. Now, on to this week's S.C.A.F.
S.C.A.F.
It's a post. S.C.A.F. Ah. See, I'm allowed to sing whatever that word is. All right. It's a post from the post-Raw discussion thread from the 420 edition of Raw, because we are blazing it, bro.
Shame RVD wasn't on.
I know, if there was a Raw for Rob Van Dam, it's definitely this one, but you would assume he was partaking in the activity somewhere in the world, enjoying wrestling. Alright, so this post comes from the user, Mean Ambrose. Like Dean Ambrose, but he's real mad, grr. And this post is, Bo Dallas calling Episode 1 the greatest Star Wars film is the ultimate heel move.
Thank you, Keith, for that amazing S.C.A.F. and what a segment that was. Bo Dallas just absolutely nails it as being, like, so condescending.
You just want to hate him.
He's so condescending, but trying to be uplifting. It's just brilliant, you know, calling him a bust, Roman Reigns, and...
You know, as somebody who lost his mind and instantly turned into a 5-year-old kid again, seeing the Force Awakens trailer from last week, it just hit me so hard. Like, I just got up and, like, just yelled at Bo Dallas. And when he said that, like, oh, come on.
Yeah, no, he just knows the best way to get under people's skin. And that was just awesome. A few quick announcements before we get to the second half of the show. Remember, always subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. This Thursday, we got another Square Roundtable, #SRT. We're going to be talking about part-timers. Are they good for the business? Are they bad for the wrestling business? Great discussion there. Remember, you can also check out our brand new Instagram, instagram.com/ByteThat, or you can just go on the app and search for us under Byte That. And like I mentioned at the top of the show, you can get a Byte That logo t-shirt available only during the next 2 weeks. So that ends May 5th. It is $19.99. You can get that shirt in either purple or black, and those will ship out at the end of the campaign, so you got to be a little patient and give it a few weeks there.
And if you're interested, I recommend getting it then, because you never know if we're going to pull it out of the Byte That vault ever again.
Exactly. So something unexpected that was announced.
Speaking of pulling out of the vault.
Yes, exactly. WWE 2K15, we're big fans of the wrestling games, but we decided to skip this year's edition. There was a lot of content that was ripped out of it. You can actually
If you're curious why, you can go watch our SRT about it, where we go into fair detail about why we chose not to pick up this year's game.
Exactly. And
at youtube.com/ByteThatCast.
Yes. And recently announced, thank you, Keith, was 2K15. So the game that came out this past fall is now going to be coming out for PC. And Keith is probably the one who feels most passionate about this. So I'm going to let him speak on it.
I kind of have to own up to my words now, where in the fall I said, if this came out for the PC, I will probably pick it up. But I don't know, it's hard to be excited. Like, you gotta think that 2K16 is just around the corner, right? Like, it's gonna come out in a couple of months.
You're essentially losing like half the life cycle of a game where, normally, people who buy like Madden and stuff, you get it in the late summer, early fall, and you play for a whole year before the next game comes out and you get to shell out your $60. Well, the PC version of 2K15, if it's assuming it came out even tomorrow, would only give you,
half a life cycle.
Exactly. It only
tops.
gives you about 6 months before 2K16 comes out on the consoles, and that's just the newer, sexier version that you're going to want.
And to that point, I think one of the most make or break things about this release is going to be price point. Like, if they release it as a full price PC game, that will be crazy. I will be a hypocrite happily and not purchase it, because I just wouldn't want to spend $60 on that, in complete honesty.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll have to catch it on a Steam sale down the road someday.
Well,
assuming,
yes.
I don't know what 2K games are available on for PC. I don't know.
It's Steam.
It would be on Steam?
Yes.
Oh, well, maybe we will.
I mean, it hasn't been confirmed, but most other 2K games are, so one can assume.
Well, who knows? If 2K16 never comes out for PC in a couple of years, we might be buying 2K15 for PC for like 10 cents. So we'll see what happens.
So now, on the positive side of this, we're finally getting the potential capability for a moddable WWE game. And that's pretty exciting.
No, exactly. I mean, that is one thing.
Like, people still mod No Mercy.
Exactly. People might actually, even if they have it at like $60, people might shell it out if the modding community is good enough where, someone could basically build the entire TNA roster or the entire NXT roster into 2K15. But, I mean, we're talking...
Maybe the entire Fight Night roster.
I mean, there's a lot of, very talented modders out there, but I mean... I wouldn't even know how to begin modeling a wrestler that looks as good as they do in 2K15. Because if there's one thing you got to give, the PS4 and Xbox One versions is those, the wrestler models look amazing.
Exactly. And one cool feature that is worth noting about this PC release is all of the downloadable content that came out since the 2K15 release is going to be free for PC owners. So you get all those extra stories, you get the NXT characters and all of that. So it makes it have a little more bang for your buck.
That might make it, that kind of tells me that it's going to be $60 because you are getting all that DLC stuff for free. But that's for me a type of purchase that I would maybe wait, like I said, to see if the modding community really takes off with that. Then it might be worth getting even at full price.
Yeah.
Because
I guess we'll
I'm
see.
not going to mod anything because I don't have the talent.
You and me both, but I will happily consume it. And as of the time we are recording this show, there is no official release date yet, but it says that it is only weeks away. So I guess stay tuned for that.
Exactly. I mean, they had to give it some, span of time before 2K16 came out. But all right, moving on to the main segment of the show. Of course, we have our Extreme Rules predictions. Extreme Rules is this Sunday, so let's just go match by match, give our thoughts on, how we feel the match is going to go and who we think is going to win.
Okay.
So first up, we got the champions, the tag team champions, Tyson Kidd and Cesaro, also known as the Brass Ring Club unofficially, versus
or I thought it was
New Day.
Cat or something.
I just hear people calling them the Brass Ring Club, so that's what I'm going to call them. Versus the New Day of Kofi and Big E.
I'm going to go with the New Day on this one. I think they've been really getting some momentum, and I think they're going to knock off the Brass Ring Club and get the titles.
I was actually very surprised that the New Day got themselves into this match. It seemed, like the obvious move that they were going to put the Lucha Dragons in there because they were like the new fresh thing on the town. But, New Day obviously recently coming off this kind of heel turn. I still think Kid and Cesaro are going to retain. I don't know why. I feel like they're going to kind of make them more of a babyface team. And obviously the New Day are going to play more of the heels here.
See, where I disagree is the fact that the New Day has momentum going into this match. They have things going on where Team Cat, or the Brass Ring Club, don't really have much going on. Like, they just kind of have the belts and they're there.
And when things like that are going on with, like a title division that they're not spending a lot of time on, it's usually that the person who has the most momentum, motorcycle.
That motorcycle is just going to blow by that prediction.
So it makes a lot of sense. And all signs tell me I should pick the New Day, but I'm still going with Kid and Cesaro because, like I said, they might try and do more of a babyface direction with that.
It's a heart versus brain situation.
Yes. And I'm going to go with the heart this time, even though I wouldn't even be upset with the New Day as tag champs. All right, moving on. We've got the United States Championship match. Champion John Cena defending against Rusev in a Russian chain match. Like we said earlier, you got to touch all four corners, whether you're linked or not. We'll see.
I'm going to say Cena overcomes the odds in this one. I'm interested in this match. It's either going to flop or it's going to be pretty good. I mean, you could say that about every match, but anyway. And like it just has the most interesting kind of set. Like, I don't know. It's really hard to put into words how I feel about this match, but I am going to say Cena wins. Lol.
No, I'm definitely picking Cena as well, but I think it's going to be an awesome, brutal match. I mean, I think these guys are going to pull out all the stops.
Or it's going to be a complete flop.
Yes, and I mean, it's a good way for Rusev to take a good loss, I guess, because he at least doesn't have to get pinned, doesn't have to submit.
It's not a pinfall, exactly.
Exactly, so he can lose and not look as bad. Sure, Rusev's gonna be one for 3 in this feud, but hey, that's what happened to Bray Wyatt.
Against John Cena, 1 for 3 is pretty damn
true.
good.
If you can get one over on John Cena, then you're doing pretty well. So yeah, Cena winning that match, I expect that to be absolutely awesome. All right, next match may or may not happen. Getting a lot of news on Daniel Bryan being sent home from a European tour. He's hurt. Even on Raw, they were kind of like, yeah, this match might happen. So we've got champion Daniel Bryan versus Bad News Barrett for the Intercontinental Championship. If it happens, Keith, what's going to happen?
If it happens, I think it's just going to be a short, not very technical match where Daniel Bryan comes out on top. But I wouldn't really expect anything crazy out of this match if it even does happen. On that respect, I don't even think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I honestly don't think it's going to happen either. It doesn't really seem very promising, all the news we're hearing about Daniel Bryan. If it does happen, it could really go either way, because depending on how healthy Daniel Bryan is, they might just give the title to Barrett because Bryan has to take some time away. But then, if it turns out he's fine, then he's probably going to win. So,
see, I feel like they're going to strip Bryan of the title again if they have to.
It's that time of year.
Just a tease.
It's
just
that
to tease
time
us.
of year when we have to strip poor Daniel Bryan of a championship. So yeah, Bryan's healthy. I say he wins. If he's sort of healthy, Barrett wins. If he's not healthy, it doesn't happen. Moving on. The Divas Championship match. We've got champion Nikki Bella versus Naomi.
Once again, it's hard to pick one, but for this reason, it's just because I straight up don't care. We're back to that with the Divas, but I'm just going to say Nikki Bella because they're going to make her a long-reigning Divas champion. Maybe one of the longest in recent history to erase another Diva from the history books.
I don't think they're that vindictive against AJ. I mean, they were actually... They've talked about her a lot and really put her up as like a big deal. So I don't think they're like bitter that they would try and like break one of her records or something.
But I think taking the Diva title from Nikki Bella is Paige's match to win. I don't think it's Naomi's.
Most likely, or even Charlotte or Sasha Banks down the road.
Yeah.
Who knows, maybe for like a WrestleMania type of deal. But I agree, Naomi, sure, she just turned heel, but I don't really see that, really changing anything. It seems like they kind of want to position the Bellas at the top of the Divas division, whether they're faces or heels. We don't know, but it's pretty safe to say that Nikki Bella is going to keep the championship for the foreseeable future. All right, next match. Really stupid stipulation. The Kiss My Arse match. between Sheamus and Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, when you said stupid stipulation, you hit it right on the arse there. Just why?
I don't know.
Why, Ryan? Why?
My question is this. Is it just going to be like kiss on the trunks, or are they talking bare-ass kiss?
I'm hoping, well, no, I'm hoping they don't do it at all, but I would assume that it's just like on the arse.
You just want to see Ziggler's bare ass, don't you?
Well, I mean, there's corners of the internet for that, so already taken care of quite well.
So don't feel bad about it.
Exactly. So that being said, I do think Dolph Ziggler is going to be the winner in this match.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to go with Sheamus on this one. Sheamus is...
You want to see that Caspery arse?
You know they're going to do that, because, I mean, that just exaggerates the whole situation even more, that it's, this super pale Sheamus. Sheamus recently, came back as a heel, so it really seems like, he's kind of on a tear right now, and he's going to beat Ziggler.
Speaking about arses and tears, how's X-Pac doing? I mean, what? So I kind of want to get off track for a second here. How are you feeling about heel Sheamus now that he's been back a couple of weeks? Because I don't think it's as bad as I thought it would be.
No, I actually think it's exactly what Sheamus needed. The whole babyface thing, that angle, the fella thing, it was just so old and done, and he was never going to be more popular than the other babyfaces that were there. People just didn't like him enough. But like I've always said, he's a great wrestler. He usually has awesome pay-per-view matches, and he just needed a new direction. He needed something to light a fire under him again. And
light a fire under his arse, you could say.
His look's a little strange. I actually kind of like it. I thought
it's grown on me.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it looked really weird the first time I saw him, but like I'm used to it now, and I'm down with it. Sheamus is doing good. I like this run.
Indeed.
All right, so moving on, we've got the kind of sleeper match of the show potentially, as in you might fall asleep.
Like, as in you'll feel what it's like to be in a sleeper hole.
Although it could, because of the stipulation, prove us wrong. Last man standing match between Roman Reigns and The Big Show.
You are building Roman as the guy that always gets up. Like, he went to town with Brock Lesnar and just kept getting up. If you think The Big Show is gonna win this match, what's wrong with you? Like, really?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if The Big Show wins this, then I have no idea what WWE's doing now. It's pretty obvious that this was meant to, build up Reigns before he gets back into the title picture, but I just don't think Big Show was the right opponent. Reigns was basically feuding with him, like going into Royal Rumble, and nobody was really into it, and nobody's really been into it this time around either.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be the dud of the pay-per-view.
All right, moving on, and I'm doing these in a weird order, so keep in mind this is no particular order of how I think it's actually going to happen on the show, but we've got the Chicago...
Because I would bet that this match is first.
Yes, this is probably the opening match. The Chicago street fight between Dean Ambrose and Luke Harper. Hey, at least Dean Ambrose made it on the pay-per-view, right?
Exactly. Now, saying that, I think this is going to be the match of the night. I think they are just going to go out there, they are going to beat the living hell out of each other for about 15 minutes, and it is going to be one of the greatest things we see all night. As far as who wins, I am going to go with Luke Harper on this one, just basically for the Bray Wyatt rule of Dean Ambrose never wins on pay-per-views, so at some point you just eventually have to bet against him. So I will go with Luke Harper for that respect.
It's a smart prediction because I just don't think Ambrose is allowed to win on a pay-per-view. It's just like one of those rules that are just set in place by WWE.
Like, don't wear white after Labor Day. Don't let Dean Ambrose win on a pay-per-view.
Exactly. It's like after the Shield broke up, it was just that was it for Dean Ambrose. You're never gonna win another pay-per-view for the rest of your life. I feel for the poor guy because this should be where he wins, and you know what? Against all odds and everything I just said, I am picking Dean Ambrose to win.
You know, I'm going to say a no contest at best.
It's a street fight. How can it be a no? I mean, they've done it before. But
yeah, I mean, like, if it'll end in a situation where...
like the LED lights, like Cena and Ryback did.
Something like that. Like, it might end up in a situation where neither man can continue. Like, they threw each other off the stage or something like that, and they can't continue, and that's how the match ends. But I think that's Dean Ambrose's best shot, honestly.
Well, against all odds, I'm picking Dean Ambrose because I don't think WWE cares too much about protecting Luke Harper when it comes to wins and losses. So there you go. I love Harper,
yeah.
They're not gonna Harper can't afford the loss. They'll give it to Ambrose. All right, finally the main event: RKO banned, and ironically, the curb stomp is banned, but it's not a stipulation.
One storyline, yes. One's totally not.
It's pretty funny how the timing of that, though, isn't it? You know, like
Rollins, it's almost too perfect.
Rollins bans the RKO, and then in real life, his finisher gets banned. Anyway, RKO banned, steel cage match, Kane as the gatekeeper. What is going to happen, Keith, and what is Kane's role?
I think Seth Rollins is going to come out on top because this is just a good way to cement Rollins as a champion, getting that win over Randy Orton in the cage. Orton beat him at WrestleMania, so now it's time for Rollins to get one over on him. Saying that, I think one of the problems with this match is going to be the fundamental fact that you can pin somebody inside the steel cage. Like, Rollins even mentioned it on Raw. Kane can be totally useless in this match because he can just pin Orton and not leave the cage. Like, if the only way to win was escape, it would make Kane's appearance there just so much more interesting. But I think the fact that you can actually win via pinfall and submission in this match kind of lessens the match in a way.
Yeah, it's a weird dynamic. I mean, like I mentioned last week, you know, the RKO being banned, it's like normally that would be more of a consequence, but the cage match allows so many different ways to win that it's like he doesn't have to rely on the RKO because he could just escape through the door, or you could escape over the top. And maybe Kane's role as gatekeeper is that he's going to block the door so that Orton can't get out of it. But it seems like Orton is the one who doesn't want interference, so it seems weird that Kane's the guy who's going to be guarding the cage.
Yeah, like, really, isn't it kind of setting up exactly what Orton doesn't want, and that's having the authority surrounding the cage and guarding the door?
It's very weird, but Kane will probably end up trying to help Orton in some way, but I still think Rollins will win. You know, Rollins really needs to get that solid title defense because, you know, Money in the Bank winners they have that, you know, like opportunistic...
Normally transitional champions.
Well, or I was going to say, you know, you got to make them look like they're a tough fighting champion because the way you cash in, it's very kind of... It's way opportunistic and doesn't exactly prove how good you are.
I mean, in complete honesty, if Seth Rollins wins at this pay-per-view, he will have been champion longer than I expected him to be when he cashed in his Money in the Bank. Because I figured it was a one-and-done pay-per-view
I almost thought he was going to lose to Brock Lesnar the night after, had that match actually happened. But yeah, he needs that solid defense, you know, to prove that, you know, in kayfabe-wise, to prove that, you know, he can go with the best.
He deserves it.
Exactly. So yes, we both picked Seth Rollins for that. And that concludes our Extreme Rules predictions. We will be giving our review next week on the entire show. So remember, that's this Sunday. So now I believe we get a couple questions that Keith can read for us.
That we do. We got questions from Twitter. We got questions from other social media apps. We've got questions from here. We've got questions from there. Now, if you want to send us a question, you can send it over to our Twitter, which is twitter.com/bytethatcast, or, you know, use the email machine and send it to bytethatcast@gmail.com. So our first set of questions comes from Mr. Danny Watley and it is Balboa's Bomber on Twitter. It's actually kind of a cool name, really. So he asked 3 questions. So we'll just go through them in order. Number 1. Do you think Roman will be moved down the card now, as from moving from Lesnar to the Big Show is a bit of a step down? Now, I'm going to say no. It's just the fact that they want to build up Rollins right now and not just have him immediately lose the title to Reigns. So you just kind of got to have Roman in that transitional period.
Yeah, I mean, Roman is going to move down a teeny bit, but he's still going to stay in that main event-ish area. I wouldn't even be surprised if he was in a title match next month. So, yeah.
I'm going to say SummerSlam. He gets that shot at SummerSlam.
Either way, he took a step down now, but it's only because they're building him right back up into the title picture very, very soon. So not for very long.
Indeed. All right, question number 2. Do you think Brock Lesnar will ever retain the title, and at what event will he return?
I believe the word might be regain, just to
Yes.
clear any confusion. Lesnar's probably going to return at SummerSlam, most likely. I don't know if he's going to be in a title match or not. Will he ever regain it? I really don't think anytime soon.
I'm going to have to agree with you. I don't think he's going to regain the title at all, really. I think there's going to be some sort of prize fight that Lesnar goes after instead of the title at SummerSlam. I don't know what that is, but I think it's going to exist in some other form. All right, question number 3. And maybe this is the answer to question number 2. Will Brock versus The Rock headline WrestleMania next year? There's definitely been rumors.
Yeah, there's been rumors, and I think that is a definite possibility. The Rock, he's had a couple years off, so because there was a whole incident where he got hurt before he had to film a movie. But Brock versus Rock is a huge headline for a lot of mainstream press, so I think it's very likely for next year.
I mean, it could be cool. I don't know if it'll be a good match, but I think it could definitely be a cool, attention-grabbing match. And I'd watch it, at least just to see what would happen. It's almost kind of like a big full circle thing, because The Rock was Brock's first big match, and now all these years later they can go back and fight. So from that respect, it'd be pretty cool.
Now, see, I have another question we have in here, and thank you, Mr. Danny Watley, for those awesome questions. I have another question that came in on a slightly different device. It's from someone named Juan Velez Court. I don't know, maybe you know him. But anyway, he asks, I have a question for the show. Given the backstage segment between Triple H and Rollins, what if Triple H had a Ric Flair role with Rollins where he teaches him everything he has to the point where Rollins is allowed to use the pedigree? Huge fan of the show. Keep up the good work and bring that Puerto Rican kid back. He's sexy.
Now, I disagree with the second half of that question, but...
I don't. I want our host back.
Well, yes, from that respect. Sexy, I don't know about that. I think you got a little bit of work to do there, kid. I miss you. I love you. I'll see you next week. Now, as far as the whole Triple H, Ric Flair role to Rollins, I like that up until the point of the pedigree. I don't think Rollins should use the pedigree for the simple fact of Triple H is still going to be around, whether it be on, in a wrestling form every, couple of months or a couple times a year, or just, getting involved in matches or whatever. He's still going to be around. The pedigree should still be Triple H's thing. It would almost kind of lessen Rollins to just be the other pedigree guy, as long as Triple H is being, an on-camera performer. So I'm gonna disagree with our Puerto Rican fan here.
I actually pretty much just agree with you completely on that. Exactly. If he did, the pedigree is just way too iconic with Triple H, and it just seems second rate if Rollins is trying to do it. So I like him being the mentor, and maybe they emphasize that more. But don't start using, the pedigree. You can use other stuff. I saw Rollins kind of throwing some knee drops in there, very similar to Triple H.
But that stuff's cool.
Exactly. I like little things like that, but, have your own finish. And Rollins, you got to come up with a new one pretty quick there, buddy.
Yeah. So, thank you, Mr. Juan, for your question. And now on to our final set of questions. It comes from another fan of the show. He resides, that's the word I'm looking for, in Canada, and his name is Mr. Keith Poshik.
Wow.
You can find him at twitter.com/ByteThatCast for all of his zany
Or
antics.
at Byte That Cast. I don't know why I know that, but I do.
What did I say?
You said twitter.com/Byte That Cast. Or at Byte That Cast. Either one works.
Yeah, okay. Well, there we go. There's many ways to get to his antics, and today he wants to surprise his co-host, Ryan McNulty, with a set of 5 rapid-fire questions. Are you ready, sir?
Yeah, go for it.
Are you familiar, question number 1, are you familiar with Bill Murray's movie Groundhog Day?
Yes.
All right. That happens to you. It's on the date of any wrestling event in history. What event do you Groundhog Day?
What event do I Groundhog Day? Ooh. Wow. You know, okay, my initial instinct was to say WrestleMania 17 because it was awesome and to relive that. But now I'm going to go in like kind of a weird direction. And what was it like? Over the Edge 1999? That was the Owen Hart thing, right?
Uh-huh.
I would say I would try and like prevent that accident from happening.
But you would have to see it happen every single
But
day.
like
if you
in
didn't
Groundhog's
prevent it.
Day, you like it once he got it right in the end, like he moved on to the next day. So I don't know. I feel like I would try and stop that event from happening.
All right, you are a noble man, sir. That is a much honorable answer than I was expecting. All right, question number 2. Are you familiar with the Dragon Ball Z character, Captain Ginyu?
Yes.
All right. You're Captain Ginyu. You have his powers, at least. You're able to change bodies with somebody. Which member of the WWE roster do you Captain Ginyu?
I think I would have to do Vince McMahon and just change things. Like, either I would help that company or I would bring it burning to the ground.
Burning to the ground, just bring it all to its knees.
The latter is definitely most likely.
Fair enough.
But I mean,
hey,
to have all that power, you
would
pass
be
it up.
Vince McMahon doing it.
Exactly. You could not
All
pass
right.
that up.
All right, question number 3. To keep it in the Dragon Ball Z sense. This time you're Majin Buu. We're talking like Fat Buu here, because let's be honest here. You have the ability to turn one wrestler into chocolate and eat them. Who's that wrestler?
It has to be Mark Henry, man. You have to turn him into sexual chocolate, right?
Yes. That's
That's the only right answer to that.
Yes, all right. Moving on to the next one. Question number 4. Now, a lot of wrestlers are getting buses these days. They're not really traveling in cars and stuff. Especially the upper echelon of wrestling is getting private buses. You've been hired to be the bus driver on one of those buses. Who do you drive around?
Oh, man. Who do I, let's see. Oh, this one I, I can't think of right off the top of my head. I'm just trying to think of, who would be the most fun to drive around. Although maybe I would want someone who was just more quiet. You know what? I would pick Daniel Bryan and Brie because I feel like they're very easygoing and they would be easy to, drive around. And
it's hard to disagree with that.
Because, and they seem like genuinely nice people. Because, you think about, maybe, people who party and all that. Or maybe Adam Rose's Express, even though,
That
what he
doesn't really
actually
exist.
drives is probably a lot more depressing. But I feel like you just get tired of that and you just want to do your job, so.
Agreed. All right. Good answer. And now, final question. You're a police officer. You've got your hands on a truth serum. You can, but the thing is with this truth serum is it only works for one question. Who do you interrogate, and what is the question you ask them?
Oh my god.
They're hard-hitting questions.
Oh my god.
And the answer can't be about Batista.
No, I wasn't gonna say that anyway. Oh my god, that's something like I need time. I'm gonna try and give like a fast answer.
All right, I'll tell you what. You don't have to answer it. You can answer it at the end of next week's show if you like.
I want to give people an answer.
All right, fine. Here, I was gonna leave them in suspense, but no, yeah.
Yeah. You know what? All right. Let's save it for next week because I don't have an answer that'll do it justice. So and that way we can bring Juan into it.
Exactly. And if you'd like to answer that question, because I'm actually curious what people would want to know, send your answers to our Twitter, and we'll mention them on next week's show along with Ryan's answer. It'll be like a nice little padding on that question.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many pressing questions that I can't think of off the top of my head. So I know if I have some time to think about it, I'll have a better answer. And Keith, definitely give us your answer too.
Of course.
All right. Yes, next week. So a little bit of a cliffhanger there, a little to be continued on the Byte That podcast. But we want to thank you guys for listening this week. Remember, Extreme Rules this Sunday. We're excited for it. So let's get the plugs out of the way. Of course, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. New Square Roundtable coming up this Thursday. Part-timers, are they good or are they bad for WWE? Of course, you can also check out our new Instagram by searching Byte That on the Instagram app or going to instagram.com/Byte That. You can always send us a tweet and interact with us on social media. Our Twitter is @ByteThatCast, and you can check out our Facebook.com. Our Facebook at facebook.com/ByteThatCast. You can also head over to ByteThat.com for everything else, including the brand new Byte That logo t-shirt, which you can find on ByteThat.com, like I said, available for the next 2 weeks, $19.99, and that is either in purple or black. So make sure to check that out, available until May 5th. So thanks again, guys, for watching. We will see you next week.